The concept of Tier 1 intervention is a buzzword for classroom management. Dr. Carol Weinstein, in her book Secondary Classroom Management, broke this down into 5 parts. Physical setting, establishing and maintaining rules and procedures, enhancing student motivation, curriculum design, and working with families. This project will focus on motivation and curriculum design, so the others will be covered in short first. Physical setting will be covered first. The environment should be comfy and safe, while still intellectually engaging for the subject matter. The student should recognize clearly what the subject or subjects which are taught in the room are. The action area should be as large as possible, while the room itself should be aesthetically pleasing. For my room, perhaps a tour of Germany can be created by hanging bulletin boards of different cities, its sites, and history on them. It would encourage socialization and curiosity for the culture and language of Germany. Now, establishing and maintaining rules and procedures will be covered. The rules should be straightforward but not begrudging. The expectations should be explicit, well-informed, and organized for ease in following them as well as maintaining and establishing them. The student should be able to follow the rules logically while fulfilling the classroom expectations too. These should establish order and organization, not resentment and resistance. In my classroom, I will explain that everyone has a turn to speak, but there is a time, an appropriate tone, volume, and code of respect to uphold too. My expectations will allow students a certain amount of freedom while allowing me to stay organized, efficient, and maintain overall order of the class. The last to gloss over is working with families. Working with families is a complicated ordeal. Most parents are overly busy making ends meet or merely overly busy with their own lives, or uneducated, or sometimes both. So the teacher-parent relationship has to be a very precise waltz. Some phone calls from a teacher to home will result in a grounding, but others will result in a beating. A teacher should suggest positive reinforcements over negative. For example, a positive reinforcement would be allowing the student to go out on the weekend. So when the student doesn't do homework, then he or she will have to have an immediate disappointment of being left out. This will be a more positive motivation over time than grounding or worse. Furthermore, the teacher should recommend a tutor or a school club in the subject to aid in the student's shortcomings. Also, the teacher should never be defensive or rude to the families. They have a worldview, and the teachers should respect that. Considering that I will be teaching German language, the likelihood of the parents learning the language with the student or already being proficient in the language is considerably low, so I will need to be thorough with my lessons and very thorough with feedback with the students and the parents. If the student struggles, I will first suggest that the student join the German club for extra time and practice and tutoring if need be. If parents are concerned, I would try to arrange a meeting at a coffee shop at their convenience so there can be a neutral location, one-on-one interaction in a calming environment so maximum progress can be made under minimum anger, anxiety, and worry between the two parties. I want to be an ally of the parents for the bettering of the student, not anything negative to either party though. Now, enhancing student motivation will be covered in depth. Without motivation, there will be no success. Motivation is broken down into 2 parts, expectancy and value. Without one part, the other will fail, so they both must exist for a student to be motivated. In order to ensure motivation survives, the student needs to be allowed to succeed in small steps for an ultimate goal and to be able to produce physical products which they will be proud of. On the teacher side, the teacher should allow the student to be active in the learning process, give useful and informative feedback, and relate the subject matter to the student's worldview. In my German language classroom, I will constantly give students chances for success, big and small. I will explain that it took me years to learn the language, so baby steps are the best way to go. I will give real-world opportunities to show them the fruits of their labor. I will give them encouraging notes on all work in order for them to be knowledgeable of all their problems before it is test time. I will give constructive criticism so they can improve while staying motivated. I will make an effort to reach out and bring the language to their world and show its usage in their own world view. I will be flexible on essays and tests, due dates or dates, in order to allow them a certain amount of collaboration and choice with me. I will always be enthusiastic of the material and encourage them to have fun with the language too. I will incorporate fairy tales, sports, interviews, and any other piece of literature which is age appropriate and interesting for the students to read. The students will always be welcome to actively use the language in class together on a peer-to-peer or student-to-teacher basis. The students will have projects which will give displayable products for the school to admire. The class is a language course, so naturally there needs to be a certain amount of language usage. So every day there will be peer-to-peer interaction and there will be student-to-teacher interaction in the target language, and I will try my best to make learning German both rewarding and fun. Finally, the last part to discuss is curriculum design. The lesson should be focused on a larger goal, be logical in succession, and flow naturally from one another. There should be minimal transition time through the usage of flow, routines, and a clear beginning and end to an activity. The teacher should be able to see the student's progress clearly if planned correctly, and the assignment should be clearly explained and easily implemented. The teacher should use all the time wisely so students have something to do the whole class period. The teacher should have clear routines for the students to follow, so flow will be uninhibited. In my class, there will always be extra work available if the students finish early. I will have a logical routine for the class to flow from point to point. I will explain assignments in both English and in German, so there will be no confusion. I will monitor the students' progress so transition will be on time or early instead of after class clowning begins. I will be organized, efficient, and routine-based. I will plan for 120% of class time, just in case we finish early or they just need more practice. And finally, all assignments will have a clear meaning to a clear and ultimate goal for the students to achieve. This concludes my video on Tier 1 intervention. I am Wayne Eric. Tschüss!